But you know, at Dubai 20 years ago, it was all desert, and I was sitting there to myself, and I thought, you know what? I wish I could make my country like this one day. I was kid you not. It's the way that was.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I spot this island, and I'm like, this has got a huge touristic potential. So I said to myself, you know what? You can build a new city on here, randomly, but you can. Like, and focusing on tourism, you know, hospitality, so many things you can do. Because so when you look at Sierra Leone, when I talk to investors about Sierra Leone, infrastructures, things that are in place, doing business here, but also the workforce. So they have to bring in their own workforce, you know. So when I looked at what type of industries would be good for this project I was doing on the island, tourism. Two thirds of tourism labour is unskilled. As a big multiplier effect.
Right.
So you can literally hoover up a lot of people to work in the hospitality industry.
Welcome to Exposing Sierra Leone, your weekly dive into the issues, news, and people shaping Sierra Leone and the diaspora. Each week, you can join us as we engage with professionals, journalists, and various guests, or sometimes just the two of us, myself and Admire Demo, where we talk about things concerning Sierra Leone and the diaspora. So, you know, today's episode, we are going to discuss the plan for the incredible transformation of Sierra Leone to a top destination for tourists and Hollywood investors. With the country that's now, of course, Ebola-free, almost 2 decades after the Civil War, Sierra Leone is ready to welcome visitors to its stunning shores, offering authentic cultural experiences and eco-friendly initiatives that set it apart from a more crowded other more crowded destinations in Africa. One of the key champions of this revitalization is Idris Elba, whose father was born in Sierra Leone. He's leading this project. It's to build a sustainable smart city on Sherbro Island, complete with a solar-powered airport, wind-powered electricity, and ecotourism experiences. So I meant to bring this up to you guys earlier, but a little earlier, we went live to discuss this, myself and Admire Demo. We went live to discuss this. I am hoping that the audio will be able to play from this video. We will have to see if it actually works. I'm attempting to do something I have not done in quite some time. So you guys will have to bear with me a little bit to see if we can make this thing work. But before I do, let me just introduce myself. For those of you who are new, my name is Joe Hatagwa. I am a Sierra Leonean American, dual citizen between Sierra Leone and the United States. I was born in the United States, spent the last 4 years living in West Africa, mostly in Ghana for 4 years, Ghana for a little over 2.5 years, Sierra Leone for a little over a year. And in that process, I learned a lot about living on the continent. I learned a lot about Sierra Leone and Ghana in general. And my goal is to try to give you guys all the game so that you can know what I wish I knew before I went. And so today we're going to talk about this Sherbro Island that Idris Elba and Shaka Stevens are working on. And we're going to see if, in fact, it is what it is cracked up to be. So without further ado, let me open this up and see if I can get this video shared on screen. You guys will have to forgive me because we're going to try to do this with the screen share option, because unfortunately the video is too large to play the video directly. So let's get to it.
What's up, guys? Unakushe, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Give me a few minutes. Please share the live, you guys. And give me a few minutes. Let me just set everything up.
And I'm going to skip this a little bit to where we started having our discussions so that I can also make this a little bit more productive for you all. So let me just get to a little bit of the intro. I think I talked a little bit about what was going on. But let's just get right into us once I got on. Let's go. Bring it back to everyone's attention and let everybody know what's going on. So a lot of intros. There's a lot of people. I don't know if we want to start going through some of the comments, and I want to get my headphones so that you guys can hear with investors. Obviously, the country is Ebola-free, long past the Civil War, and there are many people who have many ideas and things that they want to do with the country. And Idris Elba is one of them. And so we want to talk about what his plans are. As a son of the soil, he is half Ghanaian, half Sierra Leonean, just for those who don't know. Only the Ghanaians want to act like they can claim him, but his dad was Sierra Leonean, so to be very clear. And then he is one of the key champions for revitalizing Sierra Leone. His father was born in Sierra Leone, and he's leading an exciting project to build sustainable smart city called on Sherbro Island, complete with a solar-powered airport, wind-powered electricity, and ecotourism experiences. So it's a forward-thinking development that aims to bring new opportunity to the island while showcasing the natural beauty of Sierra Leone. It's a very ambitious project. I interviewed Shaka Stevens III, who's the grandson of a former president and one of the early starters of the APC party. And so I interviewed him about this on my platform a while back, and he talked about it. And so I think the New York Post did an article about it recently, so we thought we could bring it back to everyone's attention and let everybody know what's going on. So a lot of intros. There's a lot of people making a lot of statements. So I don't know if we want to start going through some of the comments, and I want to get my headphones so that you guys can hear me better. I think my for Sierra Leone Leones, the new Leone. So for every $100, it is 2,400 new Leones.
So it's 2 to 1, pretty much.
No, it's 24 to 1.
24 to 1. Okay.
Yeah. So for every $1, it's 24 new Leones. So that was a question about the currency. Somebody had asked about that, but I do want to make sure. Can you guys hear us? If you guys can hear us, give me a thumbs up in the chat. Those of you watching on Instagram, those of you watching on YouTube, can you guys give me a thumbs up so I know you guys can hear me? I know I just jumped right into the live stream because I was on a previous live stream and we're now playing that video back. And the logistics are not the greatest, but we're trying to work it out and see if we can make sure that we get you guys this information, regardless of where you are, especially those of you who wanted to join on YouTube. And we're starting about an hour later than initially anticipated. So I thank you guys who've joined, who are actually watching. Shout out to Sasha. Admires on. Golda was here. I don't know if she's still here. Shout out to Golda. Donald Coles. What's up, guys? What's up to all of you? But if you guys can hear us and hear the video, let me know. I want to, you know what? Here's the best thing that I can do, because in the live stream, well, first of all, I just wanted to feature Admire on here because her and I just went live, and we are using the Sierra Leonean Killing It platform to talk about this on YouTube as well. So I just wanted to make sure you guys got a chance to see Admire in the video. So I will play a little bit of this. As much as I can. There were some unruly characters, and I don't want to be just doing a response to everything, but like let's get into it, because it was an hour and 30 minutes long. So let me try to get into it a little bit so you got a little bit more context as to what was going on. New Leones. So yeah, doing yes. So again, Idris Elba and Shaka Stevens III they are building a city on an island, Sherbro Island in Sierra Leone. There's a little feedback on my end, so, and I, even with my headphones, are still coming through, so I apologize, guys, if you guys are hearing that too. I don't know what's causing that sound. Shout out to the internet. Sometimes it just does that. What's poppin', Mende tribe? Well, you got 2 Mende people, sort of. You definitely have one. You got sort of Mende also here too. So do we want to like jump into like a quick video of like what they're saying about what they're trying to do with this? Would that be helpful for people to see that? So the video we just watched is what I went into. The one that I started this live stream with is what I went into. So we'll give a response right.
Living in London, used to do a lot of parties in London. And eventually he took the same ballroom party, which is a very popular December and April party in Sierra Leone, where the JCs come to party. And he was doing this party around the world, different places around the world. He had gone to Dubai, not only to do this party, but for other things. And while there, he saw, look, this used to be sand and dirt, 20 years ago. And now look at what Dubai is. And so what he was saying is, in the longer version of this interview, what he had mentioned is that, that was where he thought, why can't we do the same thing? Why are Africans vacationing and going to Dubai when we have a beautiful coastline and a place here? And then he also was saying in this clip that it's most of tourism is low skilled work. And that is an important piece because Sierra Leone has a lot of folks that have that aren't highly trained and aren't high skilled individuals. And so that would allow us to put a lot of people to work, and they wouldn't have to bring in a workforce. They'd be able to utilize the current workforce in the country. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of where he was coming from with it and what he was trying to do overall. I'll pause there. Any thoughts on that, Maya? And then we'll look at some questions and thoughts.
I think that's a really good idea. It's risky, but I do think it's a good idea. However, is it going to be for a group of selected people or like anyone?
Well, the idea is that anybody can come here, right? So, obviously, if you can afford to get here from other parts of Africa, if you're in Sierra Leone, the idea is that he'll have like ferries and stuff to get to the island. People will live on the island. So that's the overall idea is to take the island that's already there, which already has a number of inhabitants, and allow them to be able to work, do some farming, sustainable energy, some other things, and put them all to work, teach them new skills, put them to work. But also other people from Sierra Leone will be able to migrate there for work. And so,
yeah. And so, and Farkan, I think this is a good point, right? Security and safety is going to bring a lot of tourists. I think if you feel like the place is secure and safe, you are going to want to come to the country. And so what I'm just expressing here is what they said they plan to do, right? Their plan is to ensure that they put local people to work instead of having to bring people in. And by the way, the ring light that I'm using is yellow. My eyes are not really that yellow and my teeth are not that yellow. So those of you who are watching the playback, I hope you realize that it's the ring light that I'm using. If I was to remove that from the stage, you see my eyes are not yellow. So I don't want anybody to think I got jaundice or anything. So just wanted to put that out there because I think that was a little scary looking if you're just watching the video. So we're going to go back to the video. Also, nobody told me there was something on my forehead there. You guys didn't tell me that. Whatever that was, a piece of lint. Nobody told me that while we were live. But anyway, here we are. So so what else did we talk about?
So that's the plan for work. And then in terms of use, the average person, they can also, if you can afford it, can go there to enjoy yourself and to, but it's a city that is supposed to bring in tourism like Dubai. So it's not like Disney World, right? So there are going to be things to do there. You're going to be able to shop there. You're going to be able to eat there. There'll be restaurants there. But it's not like it's Disney World, right? It's not like there are attractions like rides and stuff like that. So I do want to be clear. But yeah, so Creole with the cane says, but the average Sierra Leonean won't be able to go there though. That is true to a degree. I will say this though. Think about this. How many people go to Lungay every day to go to work? How many people from Lungay go to Freetown every day to go to work? If you have a way to make money, you'll go. But much like other tourist attractions, there are many people who work at those tourist attractions but can't afford to stay at those attractions.
Yeah, and so good point to Bill Nax is saying, just try and see what happens, the Akon city in Senegal. Yeah, so as of right now, and I've reported on this on Authentic African, Akon might lose his license to build Akon city because it's taken so long to break ground. So there is a potential that this may not continue to go as planned, because these things can take time. Senegal, I think, has decided that they've waited long enough for this Akon city, and it looks like there's a potential that if he doesn't start building immediately, then there's going to be some problems. What's required is a lot of money to do this. The article that I'm referencing, even to do this live stream in the first place, was the New York Post, which right-leaning New York Post, so they had a lot of interesting things to talk about Sierra Leone the way they did. But it's one of the very few times that you have an international news publication speaking positively about Sierra Leone. And so that, I think, is a positive view. There was a gentleman that got on. It was kind of contentious, so not useful. But this young lady came on. She was good. She basically talked about wanting to start her own business. And she was planning to move to Sierra Leone, and just kind of off of a whim. I gave the advice that I think that she should definitely go to Sierra Leone a few times first before moving. Her ex-boyfriend is from Sierra Leone, and they have a good relationship. So I think that was part of it. This gentleman here was contentious, not useful, so we're going to skip past that. But there was another guy who had some questions that I thought was interesting and I thought was helpful. So I do want to jump to him and see if we can get him, because he said some things that I think were useful, and I do want to get to him and then reply to what he's saying, and then also get into some of the other videos that we can talk about. So let's go.
Basically, on a sorry for me small.
Okay. Creole, so talk out.
I will fetch the English back still, probably another day. I think, let's say, concerning the project, first of all, the Sherbro project, I think we have to be very careful. I think, Salon, we get too excited when we agree new projects, new investments. But on the long run, it always becomes a burden for we. Numerous examples, like the toll gate, for instance. When they come with the toll gates, it was something everybody was so excited about. When I look at the tariff alone on the toll gates, we're all having issues now. How much they don't pay, why some of these things I think we have to be very, very careful of. And I think when I also mentioned something earlier that talks about the ownership, and I believe investment is important, but I think if it's too much from the foreign side of it, it becomes very dangerous. And
so that's a good point. Bill Nax is saying the sound is bad. There was a lot of feedback on the live stream, but let me kind of just give you what he was trying to say. He was also speaking partially in Creole and partially in English. So forgive that for those of you who don't understand Creole. And also let me find my charger so I can ensure that my laptop doesn't die while I'm on here. So what he was saying is this. There are a lot of projects that happen in Sierra Leone and end up disappointing folks. And he made a lot of good points. He was saying, like, how do we ensure that the local people are hired? How do we ensure that there isn't too much gentrification and people get displaced? There were a number of concerns that he brought up. And what I recommended is that his concerns, as well as others who are watching, who have concerns about what Idris Elba is up to in Sierra Leone, you make sure that you make those concerns heard. Right? We want to make sure that, he's aware that these concerns are there. And that he and his team, along with Shaka Stevens, who is probably going to be a little bit more easy to get a hold of, that they are aware of these things that could potentially happen. I think they're going into this with good intent, but there are secondary and tertiary impacts that you can potentially have, where you can have, like I said, displacement, gentrification, bringing in of outside employees instead of having local employees. There are a number of different things that can end up happening. And we want to make sure that certain things are enforced, if this actual project comes to fruition and gets off the ground. So yeah, I definitely think that he made a lot of great points. And I think it's important that these things are addressed and those concerns are handled. I just don't know myself if they've thought it all the way through. I think they got really excited about the idea. They've been talking about it, and they've made a bunch of potential headway with meetings and MOUs and things like that. But there's more work to be done in terms of going beyond, going beyond just the MOUs and saying this is what we're going to do, but actually following through with these things. So there's a couple other things that I wanted to share with you guys because we were on the live stream and so many people, we allowed people to join. It kind of devolved a little bit. It was unproductive in certain areas. So I wanted to make sure I shared with you some of what has come out of the conversations since they had decided to do this thing. So what has come out of some of the conversations? It's been a long day. Basically, here's some of the press that's come from this. So first things first is that Lloyd's SAP announced the partnership to support the long-term economic resilience in Sierra Leone. So the development plans to aim and safeguard natural resources and also construction of new infrastructure, human activity. It may disrupt some fishing areas in the short term, so they're looking to find ways to modernize the infrastructure and improve facilities for fishermen so much better ports and processing is facilitated and facilities are available. The emphasis on sustainable development may lead to regulations on fishing practices to prevent overfishing, which could impact traditional fishing methods. So that could have some negative impacts. There could be some positive impacts. Rice farming industry. The Eco City plans to include a focus on agriculture. The project has an emphasis on sustainability, which might encourage more eco-friendly farming practices, which could change traditional rice farming practices as well and methods. General economic impacts, right? As I mentioned before, they're looking to hire local people. So that is the overall plan. So let me show you this quick video that, that they put out, Lloyd's SAP partners, what they put out, and we'll come back in a second.
We're here today to celebrate a very historic moment with the partnership between Lloyd's and Sherbro Alliance partners. Lloyd's working with Sherbro Alliance is exactly the type of partnership that we've been looking for and exactly the right ambition. Housekeeping and I have had this ambition to build a West African smart eco city that attracts the West to come and see the beauties of West Africa, but not only that, to give Africa, its first smart city.
So if you think about what SAP is doing on Sherbro Island, then insurance can play such a very, very different role, because what we can do is give them the confidence right the way from design to build to the operational reality of what's being built. All the way through that journey, insurance can help. It could also help with some of the financing, some of the risk assessment, and some of the broader considerations.
This project is significant for West Africa. Sherbro Island is a beautiful 600 square kilometre island off the coast of Sierra Leone. We see this project as being a gateway for multinational companies to access the West Africa region. So it's a huge significance for the future of West Africa.
To have Lloyd's as a partnership seems really important. I mean, it signifies to the rest of the world that Africa is a viable place to do business, to create great partnerships.
Oh, I think it's just so original, so innovative and genuinely exciting. A really exciting project, and we're so, so delighted to be involved.
Yeah, so a little bit more about Lloyd's, because I wasn't familiar with Lloyd's. They do a lot. They have they look at different markets. They have managing agents. They have member agents. They have committees and associations. They do a bunch of stuff on policy and compliance. They have a lot. They're over 100 years in business, and so they do a lot of different things. But I guess the partnership is really meant to ensure the building process, to do some of the things that they mentioned. I'm sure there's more to be discussed on this. But I also want to talk about some of the other partnerships that they did, because not only did they do this partnership with Lloyd's, But they also did a partnership with Octopus Energy, which it was announced maybe a year and a half ago. It's Octopus's first move into developing renewables in Africa. So they've never talked about doing this in Africa before. Around 28% of Sierra Leone's population is estimated to have access to electricity, and the country is targeting 85% renewable electricity capacity by 2030. So to kick things off, up to 5 wind turbines and solar panels with batteries will generate clean electricity for local communities. So, I didn't even give a better update of what Lloyd's does. So sorry, I should have done that. So Lloyd's is the world's leading marketplace for insurance and reinsurance, which has announced that a partner with Sherbro Alliance Partners. Basically, they're constructed on sustainable principles. Sherbro Island is poised to transform the vibrant eco-city, and that is what Lloyd's is going to help them do. And then with this partnership with Octopus Energy, I'll let Idris Elba and the folks from Octopus Energy talk about what they plan to do.
We are announcing a partnership between Sherbro Alliance Partners and Octopus, the first of its kind wind farm on an island called Sherbro in Sierra Leone.
Today, 7 out of 10 people in Sierra Leone don't even have electricity. Just as happened with mobile phones and the internet. We can leapfrog past the world of fossil fuels and go straight to the best solution, which is renewables.
We will be building a wind farm which will consist of 5 wind turbines. This is really important because currently in West Africa and Africa more generally, there is a real lack of data of which to base new models for renewables on. Our wind farm will be collecting data so that we can get the right information into those models and see the tremendous opportunity that is renewables for the African continent.
This island is an ambitious plan that the SAP group, my group, have had. We're working in conjunction with the government, and we're planning to build the first West African smart city.
Sherbro Alliance Partners that have already been working to really build a framework for Sierra Leone where they can bring in partners like ours and unlock the island city vision that they have for Sherbro.
To have an incredible company like Octopus bring a wind farm is massively significant. It's not only significant for Sierra Leone, but it's definitely significant for West Africa.
We're starting off with the pilot program on Sherbro Island City, but the long-term plan is for Octopus to become a partner on the renewable side of energy as the city develops.
Africa is the sort of place with a lot of corrective opportunity. In other words, if the rest of the world have done it a certain way, we can do it differently.
And it'll enable countries, not only Sierra Leone, but across West Africa, to start benefiting from cheap, clean electricity.
Okay, cool. So that's directly from Idris himself and the folks at Octopus. So that is their plan. So they've signed 2 major deals. Well, 3 times they've signed major alliances. So first of all, they started with the Sierra Leone government, right? So they granted the Sierra Leone government granted Sherbro Island enough autonomy, in quotes, to allow the project to proceed. Idris Elba and Shaka Stevens, they founded the Sherbro Alliance Partners in 2018 to spearhead the development. 2019, the recent agreement with the government, of course, as I mentioned, but then later they partnered with Octopus Group, which we just saw, and then separately, even earlier this year, they partnered with Lloyd's. And so, obviously there's a lot of excitement around this potentially, but there are a lot of concerns. And so, I mentioned some of those concerns earlier around displacement of folks. There were a lot of questions about the idea of gentrification, and those are all legitimate questions. And I think these are questions that we should be asking Idris, and we should be asking Shaka in terms of what their plans are in order to ensure that this doesn't have a negative impact on Sherbro Island, but Sierra Leone in general. It looks like they've done a little bit of a risk assessment around, changing some of the fishing practice, same as changing some of the farming practices, but it doesn't really say how they're going to ensure that Sierra Leoneans are hired, people are paid a fair wage, they're not displacing folks, et cetera, et cetera. So all those things do need to be addressed and haven't been addressed just yet. So I think we're waiting to hear more about what the plan is. Before I want to move on to the next topic, I want to show you this promotional video. It is a little over 3 minutes, so maybe I'll cut it off a little early, but I think it might be helpful to give you a little bit more even insight into what the overall plan looks like. This was the first promotional video they put out, and I think it really does a good job of like giving you a high level of what they're thinking, right? It's definitely a concept video, but I think it's worth taking a look at. Okay, so you guys got the idea, right? I mean, that's an early video, but the idea is to, you know, kind of make sure that they restore and sustain the mangroves that are already there on the island. There's also fisheries. There's also rice farming, right? All of those things they plan to continue to restore and to maintain or upgrade, and then also bring more jobs to the area. So that's really what the focus is supposed to be. So we'll see. We'll see. You know, I mean, as mentioned previously, Akon's had some trouble with Akon City. So we'll see what happens here. So there's a lot of comments here that I want to get to. So let's get to these, some of these comments. So first of all, hold on. The problem with Akon is he didn't keep his word to the Black community. That's what some people say. Yeah, YOA is in the building. Man, you like Idris, but you also mentioned you're not sure of the Lloyds of London connection. That's, you know, you being a Londoner, I'd love to hear more on that, because I'm not aware of what Lloyds of London does and their history, but you know, obviously I know that you've spent some significant amount of time there and you've done business in the country and you know your stuff, so I'd love to hear more. Furkan says, I hope he makes sure all the contracts are signed with his lawyers present and mostly local people are employed and paid well, with all qualified professionals doing the job excellently. I agree. I hope so too. Armetta is joining us from Pasadena, California. On the countryside, the food is the first emergency. People sleeping with angry. I think what he's trying to say is people go to bed hungry, and so we need to make sure that food is definitely taken care of, for sure. Farkan says the solar move is definitely a win-win for the natural environment. I agree. Joanna says, I'm hoping for the best, but it's looking and sounding like corporate capitalism to me. Well, yes. Yes, and it looks like Bill Nax. It is corporate capitalism. And this person says corporate colonialism, I guess, is what they're saying. I mean, look, we live in a capitalistic society. It is going to be mostly capitalism that rules the day moving forward. And as much as I would like to see different forms in operation more broadly, it's hard to say that much of that will change, you know. So without getting too deep into it, without, you know, saying anything that will upset any government officials or the like, I'll just say that, you know, look, that's the system in which we operate under today. And so if they're able to bring more jobs and more tourism to Sierra Leone, I think overall the country will benefit and uplift. I am not sure what the short-term negative impact might be, or if there's other long-term negative impacts that could potentially happen. These are things that we won't know until they actually really do build this thing out and really get it started and going. I am unclear when they're going to break ground and how much they're going to be able to get done in the next decade. But yeah, I think it's something that the strong concerns are valid for sure. And you guys are not the only ones addressing it. In the previous live that we did, there were many questions. And so I think, it's important to ask these questions, and I think we need to hold them accountable, right? Like, I think I put it on you guys to message the Sherbro Alliance partners on YouTube. They have a YouTube channel. Those videos that I played for you came from their YouTube channel. So, message them, message Siaka Stevens and ask them, are they going to ensure these things that you're talking about are in place? It's really important to speak directly to the source. I mean, those are the people who are doing this stuff. I'm sorry, those are the people who are involved. So you definitely want to ask them directly. Aka Ekumeku, right? Says, I don't trust anything that involves these people. Can't Black people do anything for themselves and by themselves without involving others? That is an interesting question and an interesting thought. Look, I always say everything requires allies. And sometimes some people will agree that those allies can be folks that are different from yourself, that aren't always specifically for yourself. Or specifically of your group. There are different belief systems in that. I think that at some point, there were some conversations between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King in their struggle for civil rights in the United States. And I know they're not the only two folks, but they're the two most prominent that people remember and talk about. And I think where they both met in the middle is that they feel like they should have had allies, but they were also not so far apart anymore in the end. And I think they both agreed that allies are important at the end of the day. But I think you also have to look at who your allies are and what they're doing. I think those things are all really important. And I think these are good points you guys are bringing up. Now, YOA is letting us know about Lloyd's of London. It's an insurance market in the city, but its roots to riches are in the Atlantic slave trade, for which they apologized in 2023. That is a really good point. Imagine the point in which the transatlantic slave trade, in many instances, took off from a very neighboring near island to Sherbro Island. You have an insurance company that profited from it now coming back saying that they're looking to help it. Now, that could be a full circle moment if it's moving in the right direction, or it could be seen as colonialism in a new form, which I think is what some people have said. And I think that's a good point. These are all good points. I don't know the answers to these things. I'd like to think that Idris and Shaka have done the research. They've talked to different people, and they have assurances that what they anticipate will come from this will be a net benefit for the country of Sierra Leone, and specifically Sherbro Island as well. Yeah, so Farkhan says, I hope Delta Airlines have regular flights directly to our island and the Black or African-owned airlines from Africa. That's a good point. There is an airline going to be going back and forth to Gatwich, from Sierra Leone now. It's just been announced, actually. So you know what? Let me actually play that because I was not aware of this at all. But I just heard about it. So I thought maybe we can actually play that. Let me see if I can find the tab that it was on. Okay, before I get to that, and I'm coming down with a little bit. So what are my thoughts on this? Somebody's asking, Yakol Israel is asking, what are my thoughts on this project? So my general thoughts are, I think they mean well, and I really hope that it goes well. There are a couple of things that I see as potential challenges. As I mentioned before, displacement of people, ensuring that people who are from the country get hired for work, exploitation, all those things are all concerns that I have. and I'm not sure have been addressed. So I am very concerned that these things can and possibly will happen. So I'd like to see them solve for those things. So that's one. Two, the partnerships, one of them seems a bit concerning based on their history. I don't know much about the company, and so I do hope that they are also on the right path and mean well. Overall, I think anybody looking to improve the state of the country overall, I am for and support. Right. I also do want to make sure that they're not naive and they ensure that it is a net good overall. And from what I can see, based on what they're saying they want to do, it seems as though that would be the case. Obviously, with capitalistic intent, and so I think arguments can be made. Is Cabo San Lucas better off now? San Lucas, sorry, better off now than it was before it became a tourist destination? The question can be asked about Jamaica. That question can be asked about Accra, Ghana right now, right? Was it better off for the country in general prior to the year of return and all those people coming into Accra, Ghana? I think certain sectors and certain economies will say it wasn't. It was better off before. Others would say it is better off now. And I think that's it's you really got to look at it overall. Is it a net positive? I think it's a net positive that Black Americans and people of African descent are coming to Ghana. I think there's some negative aspects to it, though, with inflation, with price gouging and all those other things that are happening. And so I see that as a negative, but I do see it as a net positive that there's that much attention coming to Ghana, because now Ghana makes $3 or so billion almost every year as people start coming there. Oh, sorry. Is it 3 billion or 3 million? Whatever. It's an M or a B, but net new revenue generally as people start coming into the country more often. So in general, if that is what's happening and it finds its way to the general population, like mom and pop businesses that are now being that are now having new clientele from people that would never have gone there before because they've never even been to the country, then I say it's a net positive, right? And so I hope it's the same. There's some other questions. What are your thoughts on having platforms that we own and control and share the narrative without censorship? I also agree that we need to have those things. That is a bit off topic, but yes. If you want to share a platform with me, reach out to me in the DMs and we can talk about it. Aka says, any project that does not involve the preservation of the indigenous cultures and traditions is a disaster. Eco Atlantic City in Lagos is a prime example. Just a land grab scheme for global corporations. And to whom does that $3 billion generated in Ghana go? Same global corporations. Yeah, I mean, in a lot of cases, that is the case, right? I'm not going to dispute that. I do think, though, there are businesses, like local businesses, entirely predicated on December holiday. And people have now changed their lives and changed their families' lives for generations because of the influx of people coming in December. You have to think about this, right? All those people have to stay in hotels, but then many of them stay in Airbnbs. Airbnbs are privately owned. People like to try the local foods. They have to go to restaurants. Those restaurants are getting much more business than they've ever had previously. People then start coming and investing. They start building, they start buying. So they're buying land from locals who are selling the land and generating generational wealth, or not generational wealth, but wealth for that particular generation. They're also potentially, renting from people who may not have been able to rent to people previously. So I wouldn't say that $3 billion generated goes to all the same global corporations, because at the end of the day, much of it has to go to people to service the people who are in the country. There are clubs, there are all kinds of vendors and people who are benefiting from the influx of people coming in December. But I do agree, though, that large global corporations in a situation like this will benefit for sure. And we want to ensure that more of the benefits go to the locals. Farkan says the government of Sierra Leone is a concern of mine when it comes to where the revenues will be used for citizens in the country. I will not touch that one, but you guys feel free to discuss that amongst yourselves. I don't discuss what the government will or will not do with public funds because I'd like to keep my platform. Sierra Leone government, U.S. government, anything. As what I've learned is when you're on these public platforms and you talk about anyone or any particular entity, you put yourself at risk. And so you guys can discuss that amongst yourselves. I won't talk about what I expect or think the government would or would not do. I will just say this. This is a private partnership. It's all private companies. So there isn't as far as I understand, a public investment, meaning government investment into this particular project. As far as I understand, that's to date. That could change. As far as I know, it's a little bit more of like a we are allowing you to do this. That's the way I understand it to be. Man, I'm gonna have to have some tea. I think I'm coming. I rarely ever get sick, but being in New York, touching all of these, I had to touch a screen to get a Metro card, and I use my hand sanitizer, but this place is dirty, man. New York City is a dirty city. I have to be honest with you. It's really dirty. Anyway, moving on. So Africans don't need these behemoths of investment. What we need are small scale mom and pop businesses and business development. I agree. I think we need more development of the small and medium sized business owners, the SMEs, small and medium sized enterprises. Absolutely, they need to be incubated and developed and grow and supported. I agree with you 100% on that. However, a project like this could put a lot of people to work if they do it right. If you can imagine, there could be hotels, 2 or 3 hotels. 2 or 3 new hotels means that's net new jobs, right? Grocery stores, net new jobs. Restaurants, net new jobs, right? So the thing that you have to think about is if this is executed properly, and I know that you guys all have your doubts, these can all have a really positive impact on the society. But again, as you're very right to be skeptical. Look, I'm skeptical of almost everything. So that's why I said if it's done right, there could be a lot of new jobs. It's best to invest in small businesses that can hire locals and transfer skills. I do like that idea too. I'm very big on shopping local, even though I use Amazon. But as much as possible, I try to support local businesses. Bill Nack says, for me, we can grow agriculture with local people from the village. Yes, I think the more skills need to be taught in that sector, but you're right about that. We actually do need that. All right, look, we've gone on for about almost 50 minutes, and we spent a significant amount of time on that particular topic. I do want to thank you guys all for joining, and giving your thoughts. Aka says, who's going to service those hotels? I can't even get reliable mechanic in Nigeria. That's a good point. Good question. I don't know the answer to that question. All I can say is I do know that they're going to have to hire locals to employ, where they're saying they're going to hire locals to employ at these hotels, etc. So, but I think it's going to be really important that if you guys feel very strongly, hold their feet to the fire, message them on Instagram, message them on YouTube, and ask them what their plans are for this. Many good people who would work in a hotel or anything. Yeah. I hope Idris or someone builds a Pan-Africanist bed and breakfast on our island. That's an interesting one. I would hope so too. But we'll see. Again, I definitely recommend you guys reach out and ask them what their plans are in these areas, and push them on it. Africana says, when are you back in Sierra Leone? Great question. I'll be back in December. I just left 5 days ago. I was there for a little over a week, almost 2 weeks. It was a wild time, but I talked about it on the live stream. So if you guys are at all interested, you can go back and watch the live stream from the previous 2 Mondays where I was in Sierra Leone and I talked about my experience while there. But I do plan to be back in December. There's a lot of loose ends that need to be tied up. I can't even begin to go over that now. I think once the dust has settled, I got a story for you all. You guys are going to want to stay glued to your seats and pay very close attention. But as of right now, while everything is ongoing, I won't talk about it. But I have some stories for you all, and it may go here, it may go on a Patreon or something like that, which probably is a little bit better. It shouldn't probably be in the public sphere like that. It should be probably behind a paywall. But man, if you guys want, to know what it's like to deal with what happens after someone passes, that is a conversation for another time. And I'll be very careful to leave out names, but I'm definitely going to be talking about that on the Patreon. So stay tuned. It'll be coming. So Aka says, I have a friend trying to start a business in Sierra Leone, but can't even get a good plumber. We need skills development, not a resort. I do think we need skills development. That is true. Yeah, I mean, I think, my opinion on a lot of these things is I don't think that it has to be one or the other. I think if anyone's passionate about skills development, they should work on that. Same thing with the last live stream. That person that was on the last live stream was really, really adamant that we have Olympic athletes come out of Sierra Leone, which I would love to see. But what's required to build Olympic athletes is much more difficult, I think, than most people think. And it's like a generational process. Jamaica didn't just wake up one day and had all the Olympic athletes. It is an entire ecosystem and infrastructure set up to ensure that, kids are brought in, taught the skills, get excited about it, see it as a formidable path and future for themselves. And it's a whole system. But I think that can be worked on at the same time as Sherbro Island, just as you're talking about here. Skills development is needed. I agree. Skills development is needed, very much so. But also jobs are needed, right? And if you can get somebody working in a hospital, hotel, restaurants, I mean, you can have potentially the ability to employ quite a significant number of people. And the point was low skilled workers is the plan to try to employ, where you don't have to learn a new skill, or very, very little new skills that you can learn on the job. Farkan Ali says, what is the best airline to take in Freetown while in Ghana, Nigeria, or Senegal? So, the airlines I've flown on are Ethiopia Airlines, Kenya Airways. I've flown. Well, I don't know. I had a bad experience with Air Peace. You guys take that at your own risk. I would definitely say don't take Royal Air Maroc for sure. I don't know if this airline is still there. It was like kind of the Spirit of West Africa. It's like Spirit Airlines, but it was West African version. What was the name of this airline called now? Oh, I think it's AWA, Africa World Airlines. It's a cheaper ticket, but it gets you from point A to point B. No in-flight entertainment. They got those little small puddle jumper planes, but they get you to where you need to go. I don't know if they still operate. So someone here is saying Air France for them is the best. That's what Bill Knox is saying. Yeah. I recommend you take a deep look to see. But those are the airlines I've taken and I haven't had any issues with. Okay, cool. What else do we got? There was other stories that I wanted to get to, but in the interest of time, I think we'll get to those stories later. Maybe next Sunday with Admire, her and I together. Let's see if we can try to figure out how to go live on Instagram and go live across all these other platforms as we are here, so that you guys can all hear and see the way we'd like to. Africana says he's not sure, or they say they're not sure that Air France flies to Freetown anymore. That may be the case. I did hear something about that somehow, some way. All right, guys. Well, look, I appreciate all of you, engaging in this discussion. I don't know if there are any other comments coming in right now, but I appreciate you guys engaging in this discussion, humoring me, being late an hour to going live because we were on the other live stream for over an hour. So I appreciate it. I'm exhausted. I have been live now for almost 3 hours. So I am going to call it a night, get back to some work to get ready for this week, because this is a busy one. So with that, guys, I want to say again, thanks for watching. I'll see you all on the next video.